Good evening, guys. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. This is a very unusual bathrobe business, but I'm still Georgi Oganov. So you'll notice that the format is a little bit different tonight. So the internet is out at our house, and so I'm recording this on my iPhone. I'll be posting it on my iPhone, and also all the research has been done on my iPhone. So because of that, tonight's episode isn't going to be the best. So there's three major stories I'm going to share with you guys, and that's pretty much it. Just simply because researching stuff on your phone isn't easy. But I didn't want to not do an episode tonight, just simply because I had already skipped Tuesday. So let's jump into it. The first major story. I'm working off of sticky notes here. So U.S. and India. So this is a very interesting story because I think let's give you the story. So U.S. and India are set to renegotiate trade and want to essentially septuple, whatever 5 times the amount is, the amount of trade between the United States and India. So currently we have about 129 billion in trade in 2024 with India. Trump wants to negotiate with Modi to bring that number up to over 500 billion in the next 5 years by 2030. This is going to include things like energy, liquefied natural gas, military sales, so things like jet planes and missiles being sold to India as well, and a whole host of other items. So it's a pretty ambitious plan. This is pretty much right in the face of what we do with China. So our current trade, not going to call it a deficit, but the current amount of trade we get from China per year is about 582 billion. So in other words, we would be on par with what we do with China. Now, I think the most interesting part of the story is the ambition, because I don't think that's going to be easy to do. That's growing at essentially 100 billion a year for the next 5 years. And two is, what about reshoring? Because a lot of what we've heard from the Trump administration up until this point was the reason we're doing all these tariffs is to strengthen our economy domestically and manufacture domestically. But if we're moving all this production out of China and just moving it into India, nothing really changes. From a geopolitical standpoint, I guess it's weakening India, but from an economic standpoint, it doesn't make any difference from the standpoint of U.S. consumers and U.S. manufacturing. The other thing, like I said, I think it's very ambitious. One of the things that people underestimate with China is they think it's about cheap labor. That hasn't been the case in China in probably, I think, over a decade. Mexico is still one of the cheapest places in the world to manufacture, but it doesn't have anywhere the scale that China does. Now, last year we actually did have more trade with Mexico than we did with China, but don't forget that even during the Biden administration, they were very hawkish with China. This kind of rhetoric isn't just isolated to the Trump administration. It started happening during the Biden administration. So it's not surprising that we had more trade with Mexico last year than with China. But as far as your larger scale manufacturing, that's all still coming out of China. And I don't think it's so simple to say that it's just labor. One of the things China does best is build up infrastructure and supply chains. That's been their secret sauce, their snake oil since day one. That's why they've become so competitive with electric cars. Because don't forget, even a lot of these electric car manufacturers from China were cell phone manufacturers, they were lithium-ion battery manufacturers, and then all of a sudden they quickly got into automotive. How that happens is the government is there as a support structure. So it's a loaded term, but it is a fascist regime. It's the merger between corporations and the public sector, the government. So what they do is the government will come to you and say, hey, you're producing electric cars. What can we do to build this out? Do you need lithium? Do you need manufacturing? Do you need this? Do you need that? And they help build out these facilities for the economy to grow in whatever given sector they want it to grow in. It's electric cars today. A couple of years ago, it was solar panels. Before that, it was literally everything. So that's what India doesn't have. India has major problems with infrastructure. Despite the fact of having pockets of very strong wealth and strong growth, I've made the advocacy that India is a very strong up-and-coming country. I think it's up and coming for the people of India. I don't think they're there yet, nor do they want to be at the level of China, where they want to be a manufacturing hub of the world. That's just not what India does. But China was built on that. China restructured their entire economy into manufacturing, and they manipulate their currency for that. They build out supply chains for that. They are built around GDP growth and mostly through manufacturing and trade. India doesn't do that. India does what's best for India, but not what's best for manufacturing. So I don't think it's going to be successful. Next story, let's talk about PPI, Producer Price Index. Yes, so PPI inflation. It was up again. So 0.4 versus the Wall Street estimate of 0.3. So remember, this is how the cost of goods produced the cost of raw goods that come into the United States that are then used for manufacturing. It's a bit of a misnomer because it could be a near complete product that is just assembled here, or it could be literally metal and you smelt, you smelt and do everything else with it. It also put PPI inflation at 3.5% year on year. So we're still seeing very strong inflation and an acceleration. Last stories I'm going to share with you guys are potential layoffs. So major shakeup to the job sectors with JP Morgan Chase having several rounds of layoffs. The story hasn't yet cleared on how much they're going to do, when they're going to do it. But the word on the street is they're going to go through rounds of multiple layoffs. What's interesting is much like Elon Musk has done with the government, and other companies have done this in the past as well, they're forcing people to come back to work. Those that don't want to come back, that want to leave, well, they just save themselves a pink slip. But those that do want to stay on could still be facing major layoffs. Now, even though the company did hire 7,000 new people last year, and they still have 1,000 job openings still open, they're saying that this is part of just general restructuring. Similarly, Chevron plans to lay off another 15 to 20% of their workforce at some time this year as well. So major shifts in the economy are coming. I'm not going to say that those two layoffs are indicative of a downward spiral in the economy, but I think it is still another metric of 2025 being a little bit more muted than 2024. So that's pretty much it. Those are the stories of the day. Sorry for the crappy video and the crappy video quality. Hopefully my internet is back tomorrow, and I won't have a video tomorrow, but I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys back here Monday. Bye.